as you see, we've got a small little table here for everybody. What we're going to do here today, because this is a full house. Sarge, you can sit on my right. We all want to see that, don't we? Because you guys there's so many of you here, I don't want to take up any of your time or your valuable questions time. So I'm going to put it right out there to you folks right away and let you guys give everything to these legends. So let's open it up to the floor. Who do we got first? Well, I knew it. I knew you were the first one. Here, come on.
First of all, it's great to see everybody. My question is, wrestling has changed, but it's stayed the same. What do you think about the state of the current product? Do you still watch a lot of the current product now that we see? There's a lot of excitement with, what AEW is doing, what WWE is doing in response. What do you think about wrestling these days?
I don't watch it.
Fair.
It ain't what it used to be, in my opinion.
Fair.
Personally, I love wrestling, yesterday and today. It's a totally different game. When we went out in the ring, all we knew was basically the finish. And very seldom did you have time to talk with your opponent. After you work with somebody a long time, you can dance pretty easily without a lot of trouble. Whereas, and we would tell a story, a match would be different in Tampa or in Florida or Tennessee or any place, because you'd have to listen to the crowd. It was always different. People reacted, people were buying just wrestling, chain wrestling moves, working hard, really ground and pound. And other places, you got to chop meat, you got to hit them with a sledgehammer before you're going to get a reaction. So, but we did it because we could feel the crowd. We learned that aspect of psychology, whereas the new style is more reading robotics, trying to make robotics look smooth. Too much ping pong action. Not that that's bad, but you get used to that. I mean, now sometimes it looks like you really do have to hit somebody over the head with a sledgehammer to beat them, because you've given them 6 different tremendous moves that normally back then would have been the end of the match. And that's the biggest difference to me. Did you guys, your interviews were off the cuff. Now they're recorded.
Now, did you guys, like a lot of people say that that big change came when the DDT became like commonplace? Did you guys kind of feel that? Because like you had said, there was a lot of devastating moves that were a finisher back in the day that are now a setup move, or not even. Do you guys kind of feel it was around that same era, or has it been something that you think's been evolving for even longer than that?
Well, I think it's actually, it came after the era that all of us were in. I think it was maybe even after Hulk Hogan. And I think, like Brian had mentioned, it's changed so much in terms of what it was like when we first started, where there was 26 different territories where you could wrestle. And a fellow could make a decent living in each territory and then go from that spot to another spot to another spot. And it was sort of a band of brothers in a caravan. And then what happened in the middle 80s and has progressed today is the fact that Vince has got an idea. He's been a monopoly for a number of years, and consequently what has happened is that the package that you see is so much been Hollywoodized in terms of everything's scripted, so you watch one match and the next week you'll see almost the exact same match in terms of maybe not what they do in the ring, but the setup. One guy will come out and he'll be talking, and then another guy will come out and he'll be talking, and then maybe a third person and then they have a little hoo-ti-da, and then the next thing you know, somebody else comes in. And I think that the real wrestling fan of our era probably thinks that they appreciated the style in the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s a lot better than today.
And just while you touch on that, Jeff, just real quick before, all of these guys right here, everybody here from Sarge all the way to Jimmy here, we all worked in that transition where we saw this and we worked both sides of the aisle, so we understand that totally. But what Jimmy was saying, when you had 26 territories and you learned that psychology of that's lost today of going and working with a different opponent in a different arena and having a great match just based on the ability of each guy versus working time.
I don't get it.
Well!
All right.
There's some life into this bitch out here. You know, I've had the honor of working with most of these guys, right? And what I think is missing today, and I don't know if you guys agree, is there are really no teachers. And what I mean by that, I got in the ring with Sergeant Slaughter, jumping Jim Brunzell. I don't know, Brian, if you and I ever got in the ring or not, but I got to learn. Every night was like going to school for me. I didn't have some soap opera writer behind the scenes saying, well, here's what I think sounds good, Animal, but I've never been in the ring. And that's what we get today. I love the business, always have loved the business. Not that the athletes aren't great today. They were great in our day. It wasn't that we couldn't do 50,000 moves, but you know what the difference was? We didn't have to. Every time we did a big move, it meant something. I was lucky. I had one of these gimmicks that transcended generations and transcended time. We were lucky, Road Warriors were a lucky deal. Right place, right time, and we just kind of took advantage of it. But it wasn't a tit for tat. Watch today's wrestling match, right? It's a tit for tat. Usos do something, someone else does something, right? Roman Reigns does something, his opponent does something. No one really stays in their lane. Everybody's crossing over so much, you don't, as a fan, it's got to be confusing as hell. They bing, 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 bing. Then they have a finish that really doesn't make any sense, to be honest with you. That's the way I see it. Of course, I have to watch a product whether I want to or not. I got my podcast, I got to talk about it. But wrestling, I hope for you guys, it's entertaining. You guys made my career enjoyable because I get to go out and see you guys and talk, you know, Comic Cons and everything. So thank you for that.
Coming up next year, who's got a question? Come on over. I want to make sure everybody hears you.
Oh my gosh, this is so awesome. First of all, man, this is a tremendous honor. As somebody who watched wrestling since a little girl in the 80s, went to live events, unbelievable. But I want to follow up on the question that someone just asked about the state of wrestling. And I'm curious what you all think, because back in your day, there was no social media. We weren't following folks on social media, knowing what was going on in their real life. How do you feel that social media has, if it's harmed or helped storylines and what people think of wrestlers overall?
Great question. Great question.
As you were.
The state of wrestling is made to change basically because Vince McMahon wanted to reach another audience, which was advertisers. Instead of having the local Chevrolet dealer down the road advertising, he got Ford, he got McDonald's, got Pizza Huts. He went that direction, so he had to change his television show to a kind of a G rated. So if you go to a Raw or SmackDown, NXT, you'll see quite the show, because that's what we have to do, because there's no dull moment when you're watching television. There's a guy in the production truck that's watching every show that's on television. And sometimes there'll be a commercial and he'll tell the director, hey, we gotta go to commercial. So you'll see all of a sudden the match will keep going, but then it's on a little streak. It's so advanced from when we first started wrestling. We used to go to pool halls and beat each other up to get publicity in a newspaper, or get thrown in jail because we were wrestling each other the next week. And when I first got into the business, they said red turns to green. So we beat the hell out of each other. We tried to make each other bleed as much as we could. That brought us more money for the next show. But it's a whole different show. If you go to a Raw or SmackDown live, it's a whole different match. The guys can take their time. They don't have all the worries about doing promos and the scripts that they got. You know, I've seen scripts that are 4 pages long. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could be in the business today. Nobody created Sergeant Slaughter but me, and I know what I would say in a certain situation, what I would say. So I got to the point, which I'm sure these guys have, where when I go to television as a special guest or something on a Raw or a SmackDown, they don't give me a script. They just say, here's what we want you to cover. We know you can do that. So the state of wrestling is in great shape. Thank God for, I have to say his name again, Vince McMahon, because we wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for Vince McMahon and what he saw as cable television, pay-per-views, and all of a sudden everybody's doing the Comic Con, WrestleCon, and if he hadn't put the hammer down, none of that would have happened. We'd be probably still in the age of territories, which wasn't bad. You look at a territory and see what there was there, and you'd want to say, well, I'll go there, or I won't go there, or go here, or go there. Now you only have a couple places to go. And the social media has helped and hindered in our business, I think. Because you have to have some mystique, mysterious things. Ultimate surprise is what always drew money. Anytime there was something that you weren't expecting, that's what draws money. And, that's kind of a lost art. Being a general in the ring, telling a story is a lost art. Joe and I would be considered generals. And if he was the villain, he ran the show. I did whatever he told me. And if I thought of something in the match that might do something, he'd give me a yeah or no. And that's how you did it. One guy was in control. And now everybody's in control. I feel bad for some of the talent at television. They'll tell them, you got 8 minutes. So they get this match figured out. And they get up there and they go, oh, you only got 3 minutes now. You should see the looks on their face. They don't know what to do. They're going to try to get all that in. The 8-minute match, you're going to try to get that in 3 minutes. And that's why they do bam. And they just don't know. And Joe said, we were taught. I was taught by Harley Race. Kansas City, and he loved Sergeant Slaughter's character. He said, you and I are married. He just lost the NWA title, and we went everywhere. 1 hour to a draw. Next week, 1.5 hours to a draw. Next week, 2-hour draw. Talk about getting into shape. Then we'd go to no time limit, and it was whenever Hardy was ready. So anyway, I'm going to hog the mic here, but just an honor to be here. Honor to be here. I didn't get the chance, but a couple times to work with Mr. Orndorff. I'll always remember the first time we were in a little town in Pennsylvania, and he went out the wrong direction. I was the hero, and he was the villain. And we had this massive battle, and he went out of the ring and cut through the crowd, and some guy ended up in the hospital with a broken jaw. Back when we were wrestling, we were our own security. Nobody left the show until everybody was done wrestling. And we watched everything that we could to make sure that not only did we make sure that nobody got hurt, but we learned by watching matches. All right, I'll shut up.
Any follow-up on that? Any follow-up on that from anyone else? Good, good, all right, that's good. Got a lot here, okay. Let's grab your Diesel real quick there.
First off, so glad to be among the presence of you guys. I'm actually currently training to be a professional wrestler down in St. Catharines, actually. What do you guys think would be the biggest do's and don'ts of the business?
What do's and don'ts?
I think the first thing you gotta do, man, is know your wrestling lineage. Know the guys and girls that came here before you and paved the way. I see a lot of times when you're watching the shows and they don't even know who wrestled before, who the world champions were in the past. And that's a shame, because if you don't know the guys that had their blood, sweat, and tears spread on the ring for you, how are you gonna know how to appreciate the ring? Right? If you ever notice, when any one of us get in the ring, you climb up on the apron, we dust our feet off, then we go in the Holy Grail. That's the way we treated it. Because you gotta respect that ring. And you gotta work out. In today's business, you see the new athletes, man, they're incredible. They do incredible stuff. They are such high flyers. No pun intended, the Jim's old gimmick. Because Jimmy was the original high flyer, let me tell you. Brunzell could jump over your head, bro, I'm telling you. Yeah, you gotta train, man. You gotta put the time in the weight room. You gotta put the time in the rest. I mean, we all went to wrestling camp, I think, for 3 to 6 months before they even thought we were even ready to get in the ring. And if we were lucky, we got in with a ring general, like Sarge said, got in with somebody that knew something that could teach it. Because no matter, this is one of these businesses or sports that once you think you know everything, quit. Because you never stop learning. We learn something new now.
Great question. Anything else want to follow up on that? Or? All right, okay. You're right here, I'm going to come to you guys next, okay?
I got a question for all 5 of you legends. What was it, if you go back to the very beginning, that originally motivated you and inspired you and influenced you to get into the crazy business of wrestling?
Jack Briscoe, and watching Gordon Soley and WTOG on Channel 44 in Tampa, Florida. Championship wrestling from Florida was amazing, and as a kid, seeing that is picture yourself, I'm sure you guys did, 12 years old, fall in love with certain characters, and for me it was Jack Briscoe. He was the best. He was just super, and it's amazing what happens. I wound up going to a grocery store one time. I followed him around the Zara store, it's like a Walmart, from aisle to aisle, and just so mesmerized. I couldn't believe I was about 14 and a half, 15, and I was so excited Jack Briscoe was there. And then he disappeared, and all of a sudden I was looking around for Jack, and somebody came up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around and it was Jack Briscoe, and he went boom. I don't need to tell you how much I almost died that day, but anyway, he became one of my best friends. God bless him after that. It's just amazing what happens. And I sold sodas in the Tampa Stadium and watched Mr. Wonderful, number 40, from the Tampa Spartans, play football. And he was the most amazing fullback. Got drafted by the Saints in the 12th round, and was 2-time NCAA, out of 4 years, NCAA national championship teams. Paul was truly a stud. He played with guys like John Matuzak. You know, you guys heard of Big John. Yeah. So many other guys. But anyway, Paul's a little undisciplined sometimes. The rookies at the Saints training camp had to get up on their respected chair, and everybody had a song, and they would throw biscuits at you. And Paul's was Jeremiah was a bullfrog, and so he'd have to get up and sing, Jeremiah was a bullfrog. And so when he did that, all the guys would throw biscuits at him, and he said, I'm tired of this. So he came back to Tampa, thank God, and broke in with Eddie Graham, Hiro Matsuda, in this dungeon at the Sportatorium at 106 North Albany Street. And he's a stud, and I'm just glad he's with us today.
Home on leave, and a friend of mine and I used to always go to the wrestling match. A sports writer, his name was Bill Tweed in Minneapolis. said, yeah, I'll go. So went out near where I lived in Prairie, out at the barn, at Bird Gagnon, and a couple cars sitting there. We came in, right in the corner of the barn with a light bulb hanging down, 4 ropes. That meant it was a boxing ring, probably hard as this floor. And Jim Brunzel, Greg Gagne, Cosgrove Vasari, Campatera,
Bob Brothers.
Bob Brugger is probably one of the greatest athletes ever out of Minnesota, high school athlete. And
Ric Flair.
Just thinking the names I just mentioned. So I'm there watching, and I used to wrestle Flair in high school. We went to high school, and I was beat him. So I'm watching these guys, and they're pounding the mat. Fonnie Bird Gagne and Billy Robinson was the other trainer. He said, we have a volunteer to get in the ring. So I know what volunteer means. In the Marine Corps, that means you're in trouble. So I crawled in, I got a suit on, a pair of white shoes, and so I get in, and of course, Bird starts putting holes on me for everybody to, that was the press that was there, making me yell Uncle Sam and tap out. So finally I went to get out of the ring. He said, where are you going? I don't know if Jim remembers this, but where are you going? I said, well, I don't see any reason to stay here. You guys are making me pretty miserable. He said, well, you can't take it? I said, well, I can take it. I just like to put these holes on me. He said, oh, we're letting you. So you want to see what you got? I said, well, okay. So get down on all fours. First name he yelled out was Rick. Rick, you get on first. And I heard Rick go, Coach, got a bad shoulder. He said, get on. So I was happy as hell. I felt Rick get on me. He said, Russell, towards that pin, Rick. And then Bird didn't like that too well. So Billy hated it worse. So then they gave me Campatera, and I escaped from him. So then I went to lead the ring, and he said, well, wait a minute, get back in here. What do you think, Billy? Billy's sitting up on the top turnbuckle watching it all. He jumps down, he's got one eye and one glass eye. Pure black hair, but pretty rough. He said, I think if, I can't say what he said. So he said, get down on all fours. He called me all kinds of names. So when I did, he dropped his shin across the back of my ankle, trying to break my leg for me. So it was on. Blood, what the old saying, mud, blood, and beer. We got going pretty hot and heavy. I know Jimmy was there. Luckily, I got the advantage on Billy. They broke us up. I was just about to put him on the guillotine, and they tore me away from him. So Vern takes me outside the barn. Where'd you learn how to fight like that? He said, oh, just high school wrestling, Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps. What's your name? Bob. Bob what? Bob Remus. Bob Remus? You're Rudy Remus' son? I said, yeah. He said, he put the roof on my house. My dad was a roof. I said, I know, I helped. He said, well, you can't be with these guys. They're about 8, 9 weeks down the road. But if you want to come back, Chris Taylor's getting on the Olympics, and we're going to have another one. So that's how I got into the wrestling world. Well, the challenging thing that happened to me, after I got through the camp, they asked me if I wanted to go to Charlotte or Vancouver, Canada, so I went to Vancouver, Canada. And first night there, I was there for about 4 nights. They put me in this unbelievable dirtbag hotel. Ended up being a gay bar. But I had a lot of guys trying to push my stool in there. So I go to the arena, like 3 hours early. First time, Monday night. I walk in and there's Jack Briscoe. Jack Briscoe sitting on the bench, smoking a cigarette, reading a book. And I walked up to him, and he jumped up and he goes, my name's Jack Briscoe, NWA World Champion. I said, said, my name's Bob. Before I could say my name, he goes, I know who you are. I said, you know who I am? He goes, anybody beats up Billy Robinson, I gotta know who they are. So he said, you got a car, you here? I said, this is my first night. He said, I'm here for 2 weeks, you got a car, I'd like to ride with you. I got a pickup truck. He says, that's even better, you got country music in that truck? I said, yeah. So the first 2 weeks of my apprenticeship in wrestling, I drove around with Jack Briscoe. That's awesome.
Well, ours is a little different. You know, after I had my first membership, you know, Hawk and I and Ravishing Rick Rude and Smash Demolition, we all worked out there in the gym with Jesse Mabati's gym, Jesse Venture's gym. And after I got arrested my senior year in high school, I was like 18 years old. My dad said, get your ass out and get a job. Look at me now, Dad. No, but it was great. The bartender at the bar at Graham and Bees, actually saw Jim Brunzell frequent that bar 1 or 2 times. There was this band Fragile, right? You liked Fragile, Jim, didn't you? Yeah, Cheesley and Fragile. I was a bouncer there, and Ed Sharkey was the bartender. Ed Sharkey trained Jesse Ventura. He said, hey, I'm going to do a wrestling camp, man. And we said, we're going, I don't know. We used to drop elbows on each other, a bunch of meatheads in a weight room. Bam! Guy would bench in, the guy would fly across, drop it up all while he's doing 500 pounds of bench. He says, no, come on, listen, come see if you like wrestling. So here we are, it's the middle of July, we all got on pretty much just our tennis shoes and overalls. That's when overalls were all big, right? Looking at a bunch of farmers, no t-shirts, muscleheads walking to the St. Paul Civic Center. And we watched, I think it was, I watched Jimmy and Greg wrestle, and I watched Hogan and Bockwinkel. Nick Bockwinkel was freaking amazing. God rest his soul, man. Nick Bockwinkel was a wrestler, and that kind of hooked us right there. And when we saw that, we said, yeah, we'll go to wrestling school. Not even knowing, we just happened to be at the right place, right time, right bar. You know, and we had about 8 of us that made it, and that's how I first started wrestling. Then I walk in the locker room in Atlanta, Hawk and I's first time together. Paul Orndorf, Sergeant Slaughter, Tito Santana, Ole Anderson, Tommy Wildfire Rich, Dusty Rhodes, all these great superstars. And I'm going, how am I ever going to fit in here? Hey, face paint and mohawk, still around. And Paul Orndorf was there too.
Next. You guys gonna give your in, Jim?
Well, actually, my folks wouldn't let me watch wrestling when I was growing up. My dad was in the Navy. We were stationed down in Memphis, Tennessee. And there was a heck of a wrestling show on there. And I remembered seeing Sputnik Monroe. And this gentleman was a heel, and he had dark hair, and then he had a silver streak down the middle. And there was a babyface by the name of Billy Wicks, who was the hero on the Memphis wrestling channel. So my folks, you know, one thing I mentioned this before, that wrestling show conflicted with Lawrence Welk. So my mom and dad had to watch that. So basically, my whole, you know, high school, college, I played football and thought maybe there might be an opportunity to be a pro football player. So I played football at the University of Minnesota. Just, you know, caught 11 passes for 99 yards, and we had a running offense. So I played 1 year of semi-pro football, and I had an opportunity to try out with the Redskins in a free agent camp in 1972, and didn't make it. And that year, in 1972, the Redskins won the Super Bowl. And I look back on how I became a pro wrestler, and if somebody would have said to me, you know, when I was 18 or 19 years old, that I would have had a 25-year career in pro wrestling, I would have said, you're crazy. But when I was a walk-on at the University of Minnesota playing football, I was a wide receiver, and my quarterback was Greg Gagne. And Greg was a slight, you know, he was 6'1", 170 pounds, and actually he was a damn good athlete and a good quarterback, but he didn't fit into the Murray Warmath style of option quarterback who had to be at least 205 pounds and be able to, turn the ball up after faking it, and it was sort of like a wishbone offense, but it was a full tee. So Greg transferred, and Greg and I became very close, and I remember the very first time he invited me over to his house, a beautiful mansion on Lake Minnetonka, which is a beautiful lake in Minneapolis suburb, and I met Vern, his dad, and Vern had the whole Minnesota Viking coaching staff there for a big party, and Bud Grant was there, and they had everybody. And I remember they had this gourmet galloping chef. That's what he was called.
The Galloping Gourmet.
The Galloping Gourmet, yeah. And he was cooking these doggone little filet mignons in there. There had to be 60 of them on this huge grill. And Vern came up to me and he says, Jim, he says, you have as many of those as you want. And I said, thank you, Vern. I had a number of them, but that was my first big exposure to Vern and seeing the lifestyle that he led. And then after I didn't make the Redskins, I came back. Greg called me and he said, Jim, he says, my dad is training Ken Patera, who's just coming back from the Olympics, who was super heavyweight weightlifting. And then he says, there's some other guys involved too, and Greg was going to be involved. And I thought, I told him, I said, geez, I said, the only wrestling I've ever done was, in high school, but it was, not even, with the team. And he said, don't worry about it. So, Ken Patera, and I think Joe mentioned all those guys, and so did Bobby, but we had a hell of a crew, honest to God. And I tell you that Ric Flair, who was a real character, as you all know, was like a huge whale in a small pond with the rest of us as the guppies, because he took to it like it was unbelievable. And then to see Khosrow Vaziri, the Iron Sheik, do about a 360-degree spin about 3 different times in his life, because when he started out, he was the most naive, caring guy. Not that he isn't now, but he was just straight as a, he wouldn't. It was against his religion to drink and smoke and whatever it has, whatever the rest of us were doing, and he was against it. But, so we had a great crew, and I was very blessed over that career to have some great partners. I learned from a lot of great guys. Jack Briscoe, both the Funks were great, Nicky Bockwinkel, and I mentioned this before, I had great partners. Started off, I wasn't good enough for the AWA, so they sent me down to Kansas City, and Bob Geigel and a couple other guys were involved down there, Pat O'Connor. So they put me with a Missouri wrestling champ. His name was Mike George. So, and they wound up putting this together after we had about 4 30-minute draws, and it was a pretty good match, so they decided to put us together. So that was my first real opportunity to be in a tag team, and then I was lucky enough to go to the AWA, which was the greatest territory. And the reason why I feel this way, and all the guys who were there, because not only did you have some of the greatest talent in the world, but you didn't have to work every day. During the summer, Vern realized that that area, the North, Midwest, people want to, enjoy themselves in the summer. So we only worked 2 or 3 times a week, during the summers, which afforded us a family and family time, which was great. So I was, and then, then winding up when Vince and Hulk Hogan left the AWA and everybody was drawing. Vince had drawn all the talent. I mean, all the top talent. If you want to be in pro wrestling, you better get to New York and get there as quick as you can. So I was fortunate enough to get there, and I remember the first time, first interview I did, low-key, babyface sort of interview, and I did it, and Vince McMahon looked at me, and then I can't remember, he says, oh my God, we got another Bob Backlund. So that made me feel good. So you were supposed to laugh there, huh? But, you know, they wound up putting Brian and I together, and we had a really great team. It was fun. You know, we had a lot of camaraderie because we were with each other. I told people that for 3 years and a half, Brian and I averaged, and this is a true average, 27 days a month on the road. And that's hard to believe, but this is every single day. You know, and guys had a lot more than that, you know, like Cosro, the Iron Sheik, he had like 92 straight. Matter of fact, he came home one time on he had 2 or 3 days that he had to take off. And when he came by, he drove by his house, and his wife had renovated the building. In the 3 months he was gone, he drove right by. So, you know, it's great to come out, and I love to see the fans and the energy and the enthusiasm, because it's a unique business. I really think it's an art form, and I was proud to be in it, and I was very, very fortunate to have such a great career.
Great answer, sir. Guys, this has been going on really, really long. We got enough time for 2 questions here. I've already got them. I promised you in the back here, and I promised you in the front here. I do apologize, everybody else, but these guys got to get to their next gig. So, you want to stand up and talk to them?
Yeah. My question is for Animal. What was it like learning the ropes with Lyle Elzado, the sitcom?
Lyle was a character, to say the least. He and Hawk had quite a few weeks together one night, all night long. But speaking of John Matuzak, these guys are talking about Matuzak. Well, there are some kids in there, but Lyle called Matuzak one of the biggest you-know-whats in the world, you know. But, you know, he was crazy, man. He was but he was a great guy, though. I mean, it was funny for me because I was a Lyle Elzado fan, man, when I was in high school, you know, junior high and high school. So when I got to be in a sitcom with Lyle, and, you know, one of my lines was that, you know, hey, you're in front of your kid, why don't you try to act like a man? I'm saying this to Lyle Elzado, you know, hoping he wouldn't sack me or hit me from behind or something, you know, but he was a decent guy, man, you know, total professional. Late on the set every day, though.
Great question, great answer. And our last one right here. Come on up, little one. Little Cobra Kai.
This is for all you guys. You know that show, Dark Side of the Ring? Do you guys have any of your own episodes on it?
No, but I've known everybody in every one and have very strong life experiences with all of them. I lived with David Von Erich for 1.5 years. One of the greatest years and a half of my life. And I'll see Kevin, he's in Hawaii right now in Hawaii. He's got 31 acres, it's beautiful out there. Actually 21 acres, because 10 acres is wetland. You understand that. But anyway, it's beautiful, and he's got a beautiful family, but a lot of tragedy. Most of that stuff's true on there. I mean, I don't know if have you guys heard of the Cauliflower Alley Club?
Yep.
Yeah. You heard of the Cauliflower Alley Club?
Yeah!
Yeah, you need to hear about the Cauliflower Alley Club, and you need to join. It's only $25 a year, and for all the guys you see like this, fortunately, we've all made money. But a lot of the guys have fallen across really tough times due to no fault of their own. Like recently, you've seen Kamala, you know, he lost both of his legs from diabetes, things like that. We don't give everybody's name away, but we help tons of people. Just go to www.caulifloweralleyclub.org. Take $25, and you'll not only get more than $25 worth of stuff, like 4 copies of the year, award-winning newsletter, you'll get a certificate that we've all got in our awards room, hanging, so you'll be just like us with the award certificate, same one we get, and you'll be helping the same guys that you cheered for. So that's my passion right now, and I love doing that, so I love to mention that, and I hope you guys will really take that to heart, because a lot of guys really rely on people like you that become members, that then become fans, that become friends, because you get to come to our reunion too every year. We just had our 54th. We'll have our 55th next year in Vegas, and once you're a member, you're welcome to come. And it's a blast. It's like 200 different wrestlers, half women, half men. Good time, trust me. It happens in Vegas.
It's funny you mentioned that, the dark side of the ring. I was with, down at StarCast last week at the AEW show, and the producer for the show was there, and they're getting ready to start writing season 2. And season 2, they're going to do a show on the Road Warriors.
Nice.
On Road Warrior Hawks. Unfortunately, you know, it doesn't show the upside of what some of the stuff was behind the scenes with the guys, but you know what? Like everybody here, it's real life. And that's the thing I think you gotta remember, man, we're real people too. Just happen to play for a living. We play a little harder than most. You know, so. But you'll get to see it. It's a great show. I love it, man. I love it. Like you talked about the show on Brody and the one on Hulu was interesting. Of course, the Von Erichs meet. You know, I used to root with Kerry on the road. So like he did with David. I mean, Kerry was an awesome guy.
Macho Man said-
Talk about one of the best athletes I ever had the pleasure of traveling with. Kerry Von Erich.
Yeah.
A stud, true stud. But the shame what happened to that family. Unfortunately, because of all them passing away. I mean, Kevin benefited the most now. He's still alive and he got a lot of inheritance, but look forward to his 2 boys, man. Ross and Marshall, man, 2 phenomenal athletes.
Yes. It's in the blood with that family.
Yeah,
It's so in the blood, man.
Yeah,
Like, that's,
yeah.
folks, I hope everybody here has had a fantastic time. Guys, we have the absolute pleasure of having the legends of wrestling here today. Get on your feet, show them the support to the mom, and thank you one and all for doing that, guys.
While you're standing up, say it one time. Killer bees rock.
Killer